Alright guys, so welcome back to our Zoom session. Pangatlong join na natin for today. Hindi kasi tayo naka-pro-lube lang tayo, pro-lube. So, in leveling up your gaming in terms of your photo, like what I said earlier, it's about composition. Kasi dito mo i-deliver yung message of your photo to your viewers. This is where the photographer versus the audience comes in. And this is where your style differs now from others, and this is where your perspective comes in. Also, this is where you will showcase your expression in terms of your creativity. So for composition, I prepared again basic composition tips for you to level up your game, right? So before I proceed, what questions do we have? Right, I think there's a no question right there. So for composition, I'd like anyone to volunteer and read this for me. Yan. Any volunteer na lang, diretso basa na agad.
Composition seems like a lot of planning ahead. So, ano ba 'to nakarang? So you may wonder how exactly it translates to photography. And the objects in the frame and section.
And continue, sorry.
That the viewer's eye is automatically drawn to the most interesting or significant area of the capture.
And thank you no for reading. So again guys, I think that was Ian. Ian ba yun?
Yes po si Masto. Nakalagin lang yung account ng isa.
Sino si Mas?
Si Mas po. Si Maris po sa
Si
TP.
Maris. Maris. Maris pala. Sorry, Maris. Anyway, so yun, no, composition seems like a lot of planning ahead. So you may wonder how it translates to photography. Yan. Parang ang hirap naman siguro ng composition, Dam. Parang paano ko ba to gawin and all of that. Well, as complicated as you think it is, it's actually not that complicated if you just try to, open your eyes wider pa. Kasi dito, in the next few slides, you'll see na nagagawa nyo pala ito unknowingly. And then, since we have composition na, then you can apply this later after this session. Go out, take a picture, pero wear your face mask and face shield, no? And then, social distancing kayo kung may gagawin man kayo sa buhay nyo. So, in photography, this can be defined as a positioning of your objects in a frame in such a way that the viewer's eye is automatically drawn to the most interesting or significant area of the capture. Kung saan yung pinaka significant area of the capture, dapat doon na-drawn yung mata ninyo automatically. Right? Kasi there are bad photos and there are good photos too. Kapag sinabi natin bad photos, ito yung parang pag tinignan mo yung photo, ang daming distraction at naguguluhan kayo kung alin ba talaga yung tinutukoy niya dyan sa subject niya or whatever. Right? But of course, we shouldn't be drawing into a bad photo, but let's all draw to a good photo na pwede nyo i-produce, and this also requires mental effort din kasi it's a learning process, and process is not an overnight thing but a continuous learning improvement. All right, so first composition tip that I'd like to share is this one. Yan. So this is in Photoshop. This is a photo of from Grand Canyon. Hiniram ko to kay Jay Mendiola, a friend of mine. And as you can see, there we have grids here divided into intersections, right? Into cubes or squares and whatever. So sa mga cellphone nyo, if you happen to notice, meron kayo neto. 'Di ba pag bago yung cellphone nyo, inopen nyo yung camera, automatically may grid siya, right? So sa grid na yan, doon nyo makikita yung on how you have to put the most interesting parts of your subject, right? Or the most interesting parts in the photo. So this composition tip is what we call the rule of thirds. Familiar po ba ito sa inyo, especially doon sa mga bago po?
Opo.
Sino yung by the raise of hands, sino yung familiar dito, sino yung hindi? JM familiar, okay. John familiar, okay. Jogi, okay. Stop muna natin yung familiar. Unahin natin yung hindi familiar. Hindi. Si Ian, hindi familiar. Si Mads, hindi familiar. Mark Bitweng, not familiar. Sino pa hindi familiar? I-chat niyo sa akin para ma-discuss ko in simplest terms and we can understand it. Makikita nyo, ay, this is how it's being applied pala. Hindi po familiar. Okay, so some of you may be familiar and some of you may be nahihiya to umamin, no, na familiar. But it's fine, no? There's nothing wrong with admitting that you don't know. Kasi ako din, may mga bagay ako na hindi alam and I am not ashamed na hindi ko sila alam. Sila bracious na naman ako. So, yun. So, to continue, the rule of thirds, here it is, the definition of that. Familiar, pero di ko gaano alam gamitin. That's fine. It's alright. So, ito yung definition ng rule of thirds natin. So, the rule of thirds is a rule of thumb. Meaning to say, it's pinaka-basic, no? Kung rule of thumb, thumbs up lang tayo. And then, this is a guideline which applies to the process of composing visual images such as designs, films, paintings, and photographs. So, that being said, no, to simplify things, no, we have to ensure na on these intersecting points here, paano siya gamitin and paano siya i-apply sa photos natin, we have to put our interesting subjects on this part right here of the intersection. Right, so let me show you a video, no, for a what we call a rule of thirds for those sa mga hindi pa familiar talaga. Wait nyo po ako and I'm gonna share my video po. Lang Ayan. Guys, let me share my screen. Let me know kung nakikita nyo na. Kita nyo na po?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. For rule of thirds, kagaya ng sinabi ko, it's a guideline and it's a basic rule of thumb. Ilalagay natin yung most interesting parts of the photo in the intersection. So, I'll play this very quickly. Right, balikan lang natin tong image na to. So for the rule of thirds, as you can see, no, we have here interesting a subject and then we also have here yung baka. So ilagay ang composition properly on this intersecting lines kasi may subject tayo doon and may subject tayo dito. So this is actually a good composition in terms of your applying the rule of thirds. A good photo itself, right? So yun, in the next ko play ko lang. So ngayon, dito naman, we have to position important elements along the lines. So these lines right here, we can actually, place important elements and this also draw attention to your photo. So please look at this photo. Yan, pause ko lang yung image. So guys, in applying rule of thirds, it doesn't limit only to the grid and all of that, right? But again, we put important elements on these lines right here, doon sa grid natin. So based on what you see in the photo, saan na-draw yung attention nyo immediately in the frame?
Tao.
Sa tao.
Sa tao.
Sa city.
Sa city po.
Sa city, no? Alin pa?
Middle segment.
Tsaka yung sky po.
Sa sky, okay. Thank you, no? Thank you for sharing that, no? So as you can see, it is well balanced, guys. So we have here in this part right here sa baba, ito kasali tong frame na to. As you can see, no, yung isang grid dito, yung symmetrical line niya, sinakop niya yung isang buong ground, which is actually a perfect balance of the entire photo. And yung pangalawang grid naman dito for the rule of thirds is sinakop niya naman yung middle frame, which is you can see yung city, yung dagat, yung mga bahay right here. And on the last part, sa taas naman, we can see that we also have elements there drawn in that specific symmetrical line. We have here yung mga buildings, houses and all, and then yung sky obviously. So this is a perfect balance of a photo. No, that's how you can also apply rule of thirds in your images po. All right, so do we understand po at this point on what we're looking at?
Opo.
Yes po.
Right, so let me just play that again. Ayan, so later na yun ulit, no? Leading lines yung next topic. So dito, sa photo na to, of course, inedit ko siya. I wanna make sure na yung interesting lines ko, interesting na bagay is maging balance din para hindi magulo tignan sa mata at hindi siya nakakalito tignan. Kumbaga plain lang siya and simple, right? So yan. That's if you can just try to imagine yung symmetry, binalance ko din yung photo, clean up ko ito to ensure na I have balance right here in the bottom part, in the mid part, and also of the sky. So putting them into hindi daw code si Ate Faye. Wait lang. Wait lang guys ha. May nanghingi ng code to log in. Meeting info. Ba't kaya nag-expire yung Zoom queue? Hindi naman dapat eh. Alright, so far guys, are we good? Are we getting the point of the rule of thirds?
Yes po.
Yes
Yes,
po.
sir.
Yan. Kung sa video okay pa, kasi pa ng video okay. Are you having fun yet?
Yes po.
Yes.
Yes po.
Yes, sir. Good.
Ayan, so meron din dito si Jason, meron daw siyang example. Sige. Pakisend ako, this is actually a photo of a bride sa isa sa mga clients ng Shutter Dream. So, wait ko and then i-share niya sa atin, ha? Yan. So guys, wag kayo mahiya if there are things that you can share. Kasi again, this is an avenue for us to learn. Right? So wag tayong mahiya. Alright, so download ko lang and let me share this to you. Ito. Yeah, ay, sorry na. Ay, ang dami ko naman na-open. Ito guys, isang example ng bride, naka-rule of thirds. Sige nga, sino yung gustong mag-volunteer? Bakit naging rule of thirds and how it has become a part of the rule of thirds composition? Nga, tingnan natin kung natutunan natin yung rule of thirds. Alright, Dean, go ahead, Dean. Explain bakit naging rule of thirds siya. So I have answers here on this side. So go ahead. Nakamute ka.
Ako talaga.
Oo, Judine.
For my own opinion siguro or yung pagkakaintindi ko, yung sa rule of thirds, parang hindi lang yung sa gitna yung subject or hindi lang sa isang bagay nagfo-focus yung ba? Parang hindi lang iisa yung focus.
Oo.
Parang,
Tama,
yun
tama.
lang.
Agree. Tama yun, no? Hindi lang talaga naglilimit lahat sa gitna. So, as you can see, may sagot din tayo dito. But thanks, Dean, that's actually right, no? Nasa grid yung subject. So, ito, si Mark, he's trying to create a grid. Ito, tulungan ko kayo. So, ika-crop ko siya, no? Tignan ko lang kung mayroon akong, wala akong grid na pinapakita dito eh. So, but if you could actually just, wait lang. Wala siya. Walang grid yung aking ano. Anyway, cancel ko lang. But as you can see, no, kung i-imagine niyo, we have grids here on this side. Right? Pasok siya sa intersecting points dito. Dito sa mata banda, yung intersecting, and dito din, imaginary lang, no? Pasok talaga siya. So, kaya siya naging rule of thirds yung sa bride kasi, again, tawag dito, ayun, it's a guideline, right? And also, it tells a story of a photo. Yan, nilagyan na ng grid. No, hindi na natiis. Nidrawingan ko ng grid sa GC effort. Okay, thank you. So here's another photo, no, that I'd like you to see. Yan. So pasok din siya sa rule of thirds kasi we're putting imaginary intersecting lines dito, and then of course on a photo, it always tells a story. Right? Ito yung isang example din. Nakikita niyo ba sa screen ko yung bagong shinare ko? Hindi pa.
Yes, sir.
Ito. Sorry. Yan. Nakikita niyo yan?
Yes po.
Yes, po.
Yan. So it also tells a story that the couple is kissing, of course. And as you can see, napakaganda ng composition niya in a rule of thirds. But you don't need to always think na kailangan i-rule of thirds ko to. Kailangan i-rule of thirds ko to. Kasi there are plenty of composition tips na that I can actually share with you today. So ilan lang yan sa mga example na pinapakita ko sa inyo, no? So here's another photo from Shattered Dreams. So again guys, yung mga may wedding dyan ha, o ikakasal, baka naman, i-book nyo po kami agad. I-PM nyo po ako agad. No?
Magkano rate?
Mura lang ang
Mag-usap
rate.
tayo,
Ano?
Adam.
Friendly rate. Kailangan ko kasi ng kita. Alright, so ito, share ko yung isang photo. This is actually one of the best, no, na in sharing a story. Ayan. Sige nga, can anyone try to tell me what is happening in this photo?
The bride is looking at the group.
The
Guys,
bride is looking at the groom. Oh, tanda
No,
ko
no.
ni groom.
Sorry. Ano, father pala yan. Sorry.
Father niya, father. Okay.
Parent. Oo.
Yan. So, napakaganda, no? Ng story. As you can see, ipa-perfect fit natin, imagine natin na grid dito, and then we have a grid right here, and then an intersecting points dito kay tatay and dito kay bridey. So the bridey is looking at her tatay, na tears of joy siguro ito ni tatay, no? And that alone in that photo, nakikita nyo that there is a lot of emotion going on. Right? Sa photo lang, there is already happening. So guys, again, that's just for the rule of thirds. Ha? So ngayon, may sinabi dito si Joshua, no? Kapitbahay nila yan, makikikain lang, char. Alright, so that's just one example. No, so going back, thank you Jason for sharing your photos, no, from Shattered Dreams. So guys, promote natin Shattered Dreams. Please book us po para magkita-kita tayo at happy-happy tayo. Bigyan namin kayo ng tips kapag nandun na kami mismo sa shoot nyo. Alright, so this is from Jamie Diola in Grand Canyon. So next, I have another example pa. Ito, yung shot ko doon sa Cavite. Ganito siya kalaki talaga yung frame. But then for rule of thirds, nilagyan ko ng intersecting points dito sa mata to, you know, draw the attention immediately doon sa mata ng model ko. Right? So that's how you put it into perspective for your rule of thirds. Ha? Ganito din naman, kagaya nung sa kanina na example sa video, well-balanced yung image. This is from a friend, from Ronald Villanera. So yun. We have the background, we have the ground, the middle ground, and then yung background natin, which is yung sky. So nakikita nyo po yan. Napakaganda ng composition po. And I also would like to recommend this to everyone na nag-start pa lang kasi this is a basic rule of thumb talaga. And this is where you can start, you know, incorporating other composition tips once you have, once you're familiar with the rule of thirds. Right? So before I move on to our next composition, what questions do you have so far at this point? Walang questions? Okay, wait lang. May nag-chat dito. Baka may question to. No questions. Okay, thank you so much. So, bigyan ko kayo ng 2-minute break. Inom lang ako ng tubig din. Very quick lang, guys. Ha? Before we jump into the next composition para ma-dissect natin sa isip natin yung mga nangyayari sa rule of thirds. Thank you. 2 minutes lang. Okay, since naka-break pa tayo, no? Siguro yung iba kumuha talaga ng tubig and what. But if you're there listening, there's a question from Winsel. Yung rules po ba ina-apply lang sa specific photo? Winsel, the answer is no. The rules of composition doesn't only apply to a specific photo. We can incorporate it kahit saan. Dito sa mga examples na ipapakita ko, this question right here that you imposed can be answered throughout the entire slide. So, but for now, to answer it, the answer is no. Hindi lang siya sa specific photo. Alright, so pwede na ba ako mag-continue? Continue? Okay, so pwede na ako mag-continue. Alright, so continue. In the next slide, ayan. Dito, sa mga hindi pa nakakaalam, no, yung mga hindi pa talaga familiar at all, like yung first time nila itong ma-experience or makita, I'd like to have a volunteer from the, sabihin natin ng newbies, na dito sa image na to, alin yung nag-draw ng attention nyo immediately?
Sa ano po, sa bundok.
Sa bundok. Sinong nagsasalita?
JM po.
JM. Okay, JM sa bundok. Si Winsel sa lines. Sino pa? So this photo is from my friend Ronald. Shoot niya to somewhere in Australia ata or New Zealand. Yan, ibinigay niya rin sa akin tong photo na to, shinare niya para ma-share ko po. Agree with the lines. Asan yung lines dito? Pakituro po sa akin, sa mga bago po natin nakasama. So, eto yung lines na sinutukoy, no? Yung ay, grabe, may pagbilog agad, oh. Nakita agad, oh, yung lines. So, immediately, na-draw yung attention nyo. Eto, I'll share it to you guys. So, yung topic na ito, yung tawag dito, yung photo na ito or yung composition na ito is actually what we call leading lines. Ayan. So, leading lines. So, for leading lines, I'd like to have a volunteer to read. Invite ko magbasa si... Wait lang. Yung hindi ko pa naririnig na boses. Let me see. Jillian. Hi, Jillian. Welcome to our class. Jillian, pwede mo i-read for us? Ay, nahiya siguro si Jillian. Any volunteer na lang?
Me.
You, go ahead. State your name and then do it.
Vivian. Refers to a technique of composition where the viewer of your photos attention is drawn to lines that lead to the main subject of the image. A leading line paves an easy path for the eye to follow through the different elements of a photo.
Yan, thank you Vivian, no? Vivian pala guys, ang aking baby girl. Yan, so thank you Viv for reading. So ito guys, as you can see, it is the line that draws immediately to the subject. So as you can see, faces next ko lang para makita nyo. In this photo, kagaya na pinag-usapan natin sa little, these are lines that lead to the main subject of your image. Right? So dito, tignan nyo po ito ha. For everyone to see, these are the lines that we can see in this photo and you can apply this into your daily lives. Actually, kahit ngayon, sa kung saan kayo nakaupo or paglabas nyo, pagbiyahe nyo ng tricycle, pagsakay nyo ng jeep, pagsakay nyo ng FX or sasakyan nyo, makikita nyo to immediately sa labas eh. These are the lines po that will draw your attention immediately doon sa ating image. Right? So, does everyone see that on the screen now?
Po.
Oh, yan, umiyak na yung bata, kinilig yung bata, oh, nakita niya din daw. So, everyone have, tanggalin ko ulit ha. Sa mga, ayan, para tanggalin natin yung lines, makita niyo po, we have the lines right there. Yun yung leading lines na tinatawag. And this is actually one of the, one of my favorite composition in terms of taking photos. Yung mga leading lines talaga. Hindi ko sure, pero I'm always attracted to the lines eh. In giving that, a story in terms of my photo. Kumbaga gusto ko laging nakadraw yung attention ng tao or ng subject ko doon sa mga sa subject ko through the lines. Yan. So, let me give you examples. Ayan. So dito sa Zambales kami, can anyone tell me alin yung leading lines dito?
Nung kaliwat kanan po.
Yan, yung gate, yung mga bakod no ng ng tawag dito, ng bamboo, ito yung mga leading lines kasi it points towards your subject. So as you can see, ito din sa baba, it points here directly to the subject. Yung grass, it points directly to the subject, and yung bakod subject. So ganun. Right? Nakikita ba ng lahat? Hashtag sana all.
Opo.
Yan.
Yes po.
So guys, eto na yung, ayan, thank you Mark, no? Very good. Identify kagad natin. Diba, ang simple lang ng leading lines na nasasabi natin at this point, ay, it's not that complicated at all pala. Kailangan lang talaga dapat nasa proper position yung subject para ma-compose ko na maayos yung photo. Right? So that's how it's done. Very good kayo guys, no? So thank you for identifying yung rule of thirds. So next, alin yung leading lines dito? Nakaturo na agad si Mark. Tanggalin mo na natin to Mark. Yan, diba? Sigado, thank you, no, Winsel. Drawingan ni Winsel. Ito yung leading lines ko. So, itong mga gutter na ito. Right? So, I took this shot in Cebu. Sige, pa-remove na lang ako ng mga drawings nyo. Right? Yan. So, ayun. Thank you, Mark, for Ito, alin yung leading lines dito? Ito yung graduation ng kapatid ko in PICC. She's actually a
Sa baba po.
cum laude. Yan. Yan, thank you, no? Sino yung nag-draw ng lines ng red na yan? Wow, very, very nice. No, ang dami. Sobrang, thank you guys. You're learning a lot and you're learning fast. Si Winsel ang nag-drawing. Ito yung shadows, right? Very good. Nakita nyo agad yung leading lines. Thank you, and your eyes are now open to a different perspective from the rule of thirds to the leading lines. All right, so let's move on to the next composition tip that I'd like to share. But what questions do we have so far? Okay, so I think there's no question. Let's move on to the next slide. Yeah. So in this image, okay lang ba matuhog sa lines ang model? Okay lang po, sir. Kasi it always draws to the to your model. Di ko na mabura yung lines. Ayan, tayo diyan. Hindi ko rin mabura. Ayan na, ako na magbubura, Winsel, no? Wait lang. Nakita mo tuloy yung next. Winsel, baka naman gusto mong burahin. Ayan na, nag-warning na naman. Magre-remove na naman siya. Right, di na mabura ni Winsel. Ganito, Winsel, labas ka ng room and then rejoin ka. Di ka na mabura yung lines. Okay, labas ka and rejoin. Tingnan natin kung mag-work. Yan, hindi na mabura. Ako din ha, tignan ko kung paano burahin sa annotations to. Wait lang guys ha. Annotate, clear. Ayan, hindi ko mabura from my end. So dapat sa annotations nyo, clear nyo lang po. Nakalive na ako. Ano lang, go to annotations and then clear. Right, anyway, to continue, no, since mayroon na ng time remaining, after 5 minutes, pag 5 minutes remaining, rejoin tayo ulit. I'll send another room. I'm not sure bakit nag-expire ang aking Zoom na nakalibre naman na queue. So, avoid na lang natin yung annotations na to. Ako na lang siguro mag-annotate para mas mabilis i-clear. So, this composition right here of Jan, my model from Taytay, no? Dinayo ko from Taytay. So, this is a composition tip which we call diagonals. So, for diagonals, can anyone read this for me po for diagonals?
Hello?
Yan, go ahead po. I hear you. You may now proceed.
Okay. Diagonal lines can be used to lead the eye
the eye to a point in the image. Diagonal lines are extremely effective at doing this. Tension is created by intersecting a diagonal line which makes the eye focus towards this point.
Yan, thank you so much. Sino yung nagbasa?
Si Nika po.
Mika, okay. Mika, saglit Mika ha. Medyo na-distract lang ako sa dito Winkel. Try mo dito kung ma-remove mo yung annotations. Wincel. Ayun. Na-remove ko na. Alam ko na. Okay, anyway, that's fine. So for diagonals, let's move on. No? Thank you, Mika, for reading. So it can also be used as a leading line to point your to your subject. So these are extremely effective kasi there's tension always, no, in terms of a diagonal line, which makes the focus immediately towards your point. So in this photo, this is my diagonal line. Yung sinampay nila. Sabi ko, sige, ganun mo na lang yung kamay mo dyan. So, yun. Kahit nasa middle si model ko, then there's a diagonal line. There's a tension immediately kasi it draws my eyes immediately to the subject. Not because nasa gitna siya, but because there's a line na nag-guide sa mata ko towards the subject. So this is just one of the simple basics ng diagonal line. So let me share to you another. So eto dito, alin yung diagonal lines na nakikita ninyo?
Shadow po.
Shadow. And then dito sa kabila,
Sunlight. Ray ng sunlight.
Tawag.
sorry po. Yung railings, natakot na ako mag-draw.
Railings.
Yung railings, ito din, no? Ito yung kamay niya, it can also be used as a diagonal that leads towards the beauty of the model. Wow. Yan. Si Jom Tocalo nagwa-wow. Ano to? Wow mali or ano? Wow-wowie. Okay? So, yun ang diagonals natin for that. So, dito sa image na to, alin yung diagonals dito? Ito, shoot ko din to in Custom Thread Studio with my model Angelique. Kasama ko si PJ Barrios.
Table. Nasa ilalim ng table.
We have the table and we also have this one, right? Pumasok talaga ako sa ilalim niyan para makuha ko yung image na yan. Kasi ano to alam niyo yung sa lababo, yung ganito, yung sa ilalim, yung cupboards na walang na pumasok ako dyan, tapos ginawa ko, tinaas ko lang yung camera ko sa may, para pumalo siya dito on this, and then yun, nag-shoot ako. So that's diagonals too, right? So dito in this image from Shattered Dreams Project, medyo nag-low quality kasi sinave ko lang from Facebook, no? Sorry SDP, pero i-book nyo pa rin kami. Pero alin yung diagonals dito?
Yung ceiling.
Railings din po.
Railings and of course this one sa taas, right? So this one I took from last year dyan sa may Antipolo, yung bagong simbahan dyan, yung Pedro Calungsod na church. Right, isa sa wedding namin. Right, thank you. So dito, next, alin yung diagonals natin dito?
Yung train.
Yung train po.
Yan, we have the train, we have the cable, we have yung ground natin, yung rails, right? So these are diagonals na nagbibigay ng tension and nagki-create ng directive or guide sa mga mata natin kung saan tayo titingin, right? Are your perspectives now being changed? Nakikita nyo na yung mga linya-linya na ito compared before?
Opo.
Yes.
Diba? Di nyo alam na may mga ganito palang pangyayari sa buhay. Ay, may mga ganyan pala. Hindi ko siya. Right? Sige, so since 3 minutes na lang yung room na ito and mag-e-end siya, I'd like to send again another invite. So I'll see you again in the next 3 minutes. Thank you. Bye-bye muna sa ngayon.
Okay po.